Yeah, just feel free to shout out if you can't see anything or yeah, just shout out in the chat and I'll get to it, but probably will start my presentation soon. Great. All right. Thanks, Sonia. Yeah, I guess I'll get started. So, hi everyone. Thanks so much for making to this session. And this session is going to be about creating immersive art in augmented reality. So yeah, it's gonna be a session, and if we have time later, we can open up for Q&A. So feel free to raise anything or like just engage in a chat, and I'll be checking occasionally as well. So yeah, without further ado, I'll just start on with the presentation. So as a little introduction, hi, my name is Sarah. I'm born and raised in Malaysia, and currently I'm based in Australia at the moment. So what I do is I am a UI UX designer where I design usable apps and websites. And other than that, I'm also an AR VR innovator where I love to push the boundaries of immersive tech. So some of the previous roles that I've been in is I have designed AR and digital experiences for companies such as Google, NASA, Facebook, MasterCard, and Adobe. So yeah, having such a fun time in this career line, and I'll speak more about where I come from and my journey so far. So let me get to the next slide. Yeah, so a little brief introduction about my background and how I got into AR. So firstly, I majored in communication design, which is quite a graphic design sort of major, and hence why it's like probably the answer the art part of AR art. So yeah, and after uni, I got a job at Google where I work on their AR projects. So when I was there, I was working on their AR core project and I was helping designing their AR products. So that's how I learned about AR and got my first taste of the technology. And going up from there, I also did some like major like or minor experiments in my free time to make some AR experiences that could kind of like see how it relates back to the world. And I ended up making an AR experience that blew up and was featured on the news in Australia. So I think that kind of like informed me on like my journey and also made me interested more. And also this experience has shown me how people are really interested in AR and they want to see more of it in the world. So other than that, like after having like all these experiences and going through going through it, I feel like really love having like AR/VR workshops and speaking engagement just to kind of spread my knowledge in AR. And I also feel like in Australia the AR like industry is not very big yet. So really love like sharing my experiences with others who are interested in getting into it as well. So in this talk is talking about creating immersive art with augmented reality. So here are some projects that I've done in the space art with AR. So firstly, I have done a solo exhibition in Sydney where all my artworks are AR activated. So basically my art exhibition was called Unseen. And the reason why I chose that title was because I want to highlight silent influences in our life who makes us who we are today. So that's where the AR part comes in, like because I want it to be like, little like influences that influence how you live or like how you go about life. I wanted AR to be this virtual space where the deeper realities are exposed. So yeah, I kind of highlight like stuff such as mental health, like climate change, some social awareness into racism as well, and yeah, just a lot of things, but I'll get into that more later. And secondly, I also did a project called Building Resilience in collaboration with Adobe. So Building Resilience is a typography project that hopes to encourage others to build resilience. So I kind of made this last year in the peak lockdown, and this was commissioned as part of the Adobe's creative residency. And basically what you see here are a series of quotes that encourage people to be more resilient. And I've done that up with 3D and have it in AR. So it's like little art pieces that users or audience can experience in their own homes amidst the pandemic. And the whole reason for this is hoping that all these quotes will help people be more resilient and just change their mindset. So all these quotes are accompanied by little like written stories and also like lived experiences as well to let audiences and users be more immersed into the artworks that we see here in AR. Oops, it's getting my screen to work. Yeah, and most recently this. Ooh, all right, great. Okay, I think it's on. Okay, yep, great. Okay, it was lagging a little bit, but oh, okay. Let me just get back. Okay, yeah. So yeah, sorry about the mishap there. So this is basically a project that I was working on most recently. So this touches on like the current like pandemic and how current like AAPI community are getting a lot of hate towards like, COVID-19, thinking that like, oh, oops, sorry. I think I think it's lagging for a little bit, but I think it kind of caught up now. So yeah, so to kind of like talk back again, this work is about Let's Talk's perspective, which features the story of three Asian Australians who has been impacted by COVID-19 related racism. So this piece of work is commissioned by Diversity Arts Australia and City of Sydney, where we interviewed three Asian Australians, we recorded their stories, and we have their portrait and layers displayed in AR. So it kind of shows like a very deep experience where the user can go through it, weave through their portraits, and also hear their story at the same time. So yeah, and I feel like the reason why we use AR in this project is because we want the public to have a first-hand experience of going through the portraits, of as if of getting to know these people personally, and we hope that this would at least stop hate against AAPI and also be more empathetic towards Asians. So yeah, this is done in collaboration with one of my friend, and yeah, it's also like showcased in a lot of news channels in Australia at the moment. So it's pretty exciting. And yeah, so the next slide, I'll be kind of like talking about why I make AR art and also like why do I use AR as a medium to make art. So I'll also be referencing a lot of the work that I've done earlier. So why I make AR art? Firstly, I feel like it tells a story with animation, something that static visual design can't do. So why is storytelling important? I feel like it's so important because like it's such a good way to kind of let us remember more and also be more immersed into the media. So like I'm sure like most of us have already like know about like Pixar and Disney and how we grew up with these videos and movies and how we like enjoy seeing them and watching them. So yeah, these are little like animations that are ingrained into our mind and gave us a very like warm, fuzzy childhood experience. So that's why I feel like it's so important to bring in a layer of animation into storytelling. And I feel like that could really engage well with the audience and also the people who's experiencing an art piece in AR. So you can put in a lot of animations and also, yeah, engage them that way. And secondly, why I make AR art is that I want to allow the users to feel really involved with the art. So like I mentioned before about this project, Let's Talk's perspective, like this is kind of like a life-size artwork in AR. So it finds a flat surface on the user's ground, and then they have this like really big like portraits of the Asian Australians that we featured. So the user can go through the layers and like it's kind of like as if like pillars that we have, and then they can go through it while hearing their stories, which is around a minute long. So this way, like we can see that the AR allows the user to have a first point of view to go through the artworks and yeah, experience it slowly and making them feel like they're part of the artwork. So this is such a good way to use AR to kind of make them feel a part of it and also make them feel like they can experience something on their own. And thirdly, why I make AR art is that I feel like it's so easily experienced everywhere. So because AR is often, or AR is like most commonly accessed using a smartphone, and I feel like a majority of users or people in the world has smartphone. So you can either let them experience at home or at a certain venue. But I think with this COVID situation right now, like experiencing at home is such a good idea as well, so to be COVID safe. So yeah, like usually in my artworks, I would either use image tracking or plane tracking on surfaces so that the AR can appear on the surface or on an artwork. In that way, it kind of like standardize what the users have in their own environment, such as if they have a flat surface, obviously they can use their table or they can use their floor, or if they have their artwork, you can arrange something like maybe have them printed out or like send it to their home. So yeah, these are little things that you can think about on how you can allow your AR experiences to be experienced at home or at a venue. So yeah, like I mentioned as well, like I love how AR art is so accessible to people having a smartphone. And I feel like, yeah, having probably a first step to determining if you have the AR experience like at home or at venue, it's good to kind of have little things established beforehand, such as if you want to have anchored on an image, on the ground, or probably on a table. So that will give you a good indication of how to scale your AR artwork and provide a good experience for your users. So I have attached a little GIF here in the left side, and it shows that one of my AR artworks being like viewed in an AR like device. So this is an iPad, and as you can see, the iPad and the AR experience like kind of projects a layer of animation on an existing artwork. So I had this at a certain venue in an art exhibition last year, and you can see this being adaptable to have it at home or like just keep it at the venue. I could probably just arrange like little artworks to be sent to them as postcards. So yeah, I love how AR is so accessible that way that everyone can access your art, view your art firsthand, and having AR is such an immersive medium, either at their home or in a public space. That's really great. So yeah, kind of talking about these experiences, like here's my little tips to how to use AR to create art. So these are just little tips that I've compiled, like in my experiences of doing commissions for galleries and also the projects that I mentioned about earlier. So yeah, what message do you want to communicate in your art? And I'm sure like if you create an artwork or even a design, there's always a intention that you want to communicate, such as if you want to raise awareness towards a certain matter or you want to spread like a communication piece, like there's always a intention that you like to do. So yeah, what kind of message do you want to communicate? And this I've kind of gotten an example from my own solar exhibition. So as you can see here, I have a illustrated artwork displayed that I illustrated myself, and these are hang across the walls in the gallery. And like I mentioned before, each artwork was AR activated. So this is an example of how the AR, like how the AR looks like when I point my phone to the artwork. So as you can see, like the message that I want to communicate here is the awareness of climate change. So if you can see like as a user just coming into the gallery, I can just see like, a person holding a popsicle stick with like animals inside. But then when you launch the AI experiences and when you look deeper into it, it's talking about climate change, and I kind of communicate the message through animation and also having the answers revealed in AR rather than giving the answers upfront to the users to just see. So letting them experience the shock and also letting them experience like, this messaging and what's the messaging telling them as well. So this is an example of a communication of something such as climate change. And the next example, this is also getting from the same exhibition that I had as well. As you can see, the illustrated artwork that I've displayed have this little like human and a lot of masks floating around it. At first glance, you probably have a sense of what's trying to communicate to you. But then once you activate the artwork in AR and also to see the animation, you can see that it kind of is alluding to like kind of like a little darkness vibe into it. Seems a bit like dark. So yeah, it's this artwork was trying to communicate about the implications of mental health and also to bring awareness as well. And one thing that I really enjoy and one thing that I've gotten a lot of feedback from this exhibition is that a lot of people like this piece because it is leveraging a lot on the technologies of AR, where as you can see in the artwork, the masks are kind of bounded within this like rectangular frame. Whereas in AR, like the mask was floating around, it was kind of like giving a whole new dimension to the artwork. That's why a lot of people were very engaged and they really like this piece very much. So this could be an idea of, using AR to bring in a level of depth or bring in a level of motion that really engages your audience as well. So yeah, this in a nutshell was talking about mental health. And yeah, it's pretty cool to kind of like see it animated in AR and people also realizing like, oh wow, there's more deeper things into just the illustrated colorful artwork that was hanging around the gallery. So yeah, it was a fun one. So secondly, tips on using AR to create art. I would say the second one is definitely to make use of the immersive nature. So AR being such a like one of the immersive techs apart from VR, it's good to kind of think why do you want to use AR in the sense and why out of all the tech you have available, why AR? So yeah, I feel like one like these are a few prompts to kind of ask yourself, what is possible with AR that no other mediums can do, such as what can you achieve with AR rather than just a static visual piece. And yeah, I just feel like personally it brings more depth to just visual 2D art and it allows the user to just experience it firsthand. And I feel like to me, like I mentioned before, the animation and storytelling component was quite a big point for me because I feel like if let's say you can do that with screens in a gallery, but I feel like AR just kind of like allows the user to be in control and kind of view it in their own perspective as well. So that's why I really enjoy it. And one thing that I like to think about is that the world is your canvas, like literally. So if let's say you have like an AR like artwork on an AR experience, you can literally think how is it gonna pan out in the whole 3D world. So yeah, I feel like there's such a fun, compelling reason to use it in your art, such as like, finding like little opportunities like this, how big you wanna make it, and yeah, so this little image is actually entirely Photoshop, but it was a like little commission work that I've done for Adobe as well in their AR department. So yeah, this is what I imagine like looking and feeling like having 3D models like floating around me and using an iPad to look through the environment. So yeah, this is why I like to do AR with all this like artworks. And I feel like one thing is I feel like out in the world there's so many people being aware of AR and sometimes people can find AR experiences a little bit gimmicky. So I feel like one of the tips that I have to like share is that you can weave in a little layer of meaning why you want to use AR. So like the previous example that I shared in my Unseen Solo exhibition previously, like I wanted AR to be kind of like the darker reality to things you see in the surface. So hence kind of like weaving AR into the messaging of your artwork, that could be something that you can do as well to make use of the immersive nature. So yeah, lastly, some tips on using using AR to create art is also to think about the accessibility and providing a good user experience for your users. So like I mentioned before, coming from a visual background, like getting know getting to know about AR tech and learning how to do it, and as well as being a product designer and UX UI designer now, I feel like you're providing a very good user experience to your users is a really important aspect of things to let them experience the AR at ease as well. So yeah, like I mentioned previously, I feel like personally in Australia, not a lot of people are very exposed to AR and VR experiences. So to me as a designer, I'm thinking like, how do I allow or make them feel comfortable using AR experiences? So yeah, I can kind of share a little bit on how I did that for my art exhibition that I had. So as you can see in the image here, like next to each image, I actually have this little like plaque where I have a really big QR code, have a little bit of instructions on how the user can access the QR code or the AR experience and what they need beforehand. So for some context, I use Spark AR for this. So my users just have to have an Instagram app on their phone, which majority of my users and audience had. So it's kind of like a way of like them not having to download a separate app. They can just leverage the current Instagram app that they use. So that's a bonus point for me. So yeah, having a little QR code, having like a little text, having like, the title of the artwork and also the description really helps to kind of bring it all together. And if let's say thinking about the scenario where if audiences come in and they don't have a phone with them, for example, I also gave them a little preview of how it looks like an AR. So if they were to like come around and just like view the artwork visually without activating the AR experiences, I feel like the message is really important to be communicated here. So I have this little like preview to show them how it looks like an AR so that they don't feel left out as well. So yeah, like some of the tips that I bring today is that having like little prompts like this that I bring to you. So let's say like what phone does majority of your audience use? I feel like that's important to kind of inform what platform you want to make your AR experiences in. Like would they be willing to download a separate app or you can just leverage a third party one like what I did here with Spark AR? And will instructions be added near the artworks? Will it be added beginning of the exhibition? Like how guided do you want them to be? And what if they can't access the AR experiences? How would they know what happens in AR? So hence that's why I have this little preview here. So yeah, and for me, because I think like talking through my background earlier as well, you can see that I'm not a technical person. Like I'm not a developer. I don't code day to day. I'm mainly a visual designer and turn into product designer. So these are some tools that I kind of start off with as a designer and a non-technical one at that. So these tools really helped me in the beginning to kind of like not having tech to be a limitation for me as a designer, where I can use all these third-party apps to kind of create my AR experiences and also my AR art in them. So I kind of rank them as easy to advanced, and easy ones include apps like iJack, RTV, and medium includes like Spark AR or Adobe Arrow, and advanced include like Unity and Unreal if you want to do more complicated or more things that are freeing. So yeah, I feel like these are pretty good like basic level depending on where you're at. You can try out and see if you want to like pursue this route of having your artworks be AR-fied. So yeah, next steps wise, I'm actually launching my Skillshare class on AR for artists. So it's just a little like plug that I'm doing right here. So yeah, I'm launching my Skillshare class, and basically, if you're interested to get a more like in-depth, in-depth experiences or in-depth background on how I usually plan for making AR for like AR art, and also like having this view of creating this class for total beginners. So yeah, if you're interested, feel free to go into the link and leave your email and you get a special code for 3 months free of Skillshare access. So yeah, if you're interested, feel free to go from there. And yeah, I feel like that concludes my talk for the day. So as a little recap, these are the three 3 little tips and tricks on how I make AR art. So the first 3 is about why I make AR art and why I think AR has such a good place in the art space. So it tells a story with animation. Secondly, it allows users to feel involved with the art. And thirdly, it is easily experienced everywhere with a smartphone. And the next 3 tips is how I use to create AR art and what kind of medium or things that I think about while doing it. So think about what message do you want to communicate, what do you want to make use of the immersive nature for, and also think about the accessibility and good user experience as well. So yeah, and also like, if you are interested in doing AR art, you don't have to come up with a solo exhibition right away. You don't have to like make a big project out of it. It can even start small, like probably just having like, having your doodles or your artwork and trying to find a way on how you can make it AR or like bring a whole new depth to your artwork in AR. So yeah, like depending on where you're at in your AR VR journey or where you're at in your art journey, you can definitely think about little small projects that you can experiment with, or big projects like a big solo exhibition or a gallery exhibition if you want to go all out. So yeah, I guess that concludes my talk for the day. And thank you for coming over and listening to this talk. And I really hope you learned something today or it inspired you to go away and probably just experiment on how you can create your own AR art. So yeah, feel free to connect with me as you want as well. I post a lot of like AR art and exhibitions or also like little AR experiments in my LinkedIn and my Instagram. So you can just follow me there if you're interested. And yeah, if there's any questions that you'd like to ask as well, feel free to reach out to me on these channels and I'll be happy to answer them. So yeah, thank you so much. And I can see that it is at time right now, so I'll probably leave you be to enjoy the rest of the conference. Yeah, bye.